Hey Seekers, and welcome back. I'm your host Julienne Irons, and today we're continuing our exploration of love and relationships, this time through the scientific lens. Now, if y'all are like me and you've ever found yourself asking, why do I keep feeling drawn to the same kind of person? Why does chemistry sometimes feel so strong, even when something feels off? Or why do certain relationships feel grounding while others feel activating? Seekers, this conversation begins to answer all those questions and more. Because underneath attraction, conflict, and connection is a system at work. Attachment. Our guest today is Jessica Fern, a therapist who works with individuals and couples across a range of relationship structures, helping people understand how early relational experiences shape the way we bond, regulate, and connect in love. In this episode, we'll explore what's happening in the brain and nervous system when we form attachment, why we repeat relational patterns, and how those patterns show up across different relationship structures. This is Perspective Shifts for Healing with the Hanged Woman, where perspective is power. Let's get into it. Hey Seekers, if you're building a business and something feels off, like you're doing all the right things, but the momentum still isn't there, it might not just be a strategy problem. At 3 of Cups Healing, we offer intuitive marketing solutions using tarot, energy healing, and heart-centered creative guidance. Because the way you feel in your business shapes how you show up, how you make decisions, and how you grow. We help emerging business owners turn inner alignment into outward momentum, so your business can grow with more ease, clarity, and intention. Seekers, if you're ready to build your business in a way that actually feels supportive, book a free consultation with us at 3ofcupshealing.com. Your vision, your magic. Let's make it real. Together. That's 3ofcupshealing.com. And now, back to the episode. Jessica Fern, I am so excited to have you on the show today. Welcome to Perspective Shifts for Healing with the Hanged Woman.
Thank you. I
Yes.
am very excited to be with you. We're already having fun.
So much fun. I love it. So, Jessica, for listeners meeting you for the first time, can you just share a little bit about your work and what led you to the work that you do?
Yeah, so I am a therapist and I work with individuals. I work a lot with couples, and I'm an author. And a significant portion of my clients are in non-monogamous or alternative relationship structures, which ultimately shaped a lot of my thinking around my writing. So, particularly with my books, Polysecure and Polywise, they really came directly out of what I was seeing in my practice of what are couples or partners, struggling with.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah.
So let's just start with the foundation of everything.
Yes.
What is actually happening in our brain and nervous system when we form attachment bonds with someone?
Yeah. So we think of attachment as emotional, which it is. We have emotional attachment bonds, but attachment is fundamentally a biological system in our body and brain. So, from day one, we need to attach to our caregivers in order to survive. So, the attachment system really evolved to keep us close to the people that we have to depend on to keep ourselves alive. So, we form bonds with someone. We're actually activating systems in the brain that help regulate feeling safe and reward systems in the brain. And so much of it is also about threat detection. We're talking about the prefrontal cortex, the limbic system, and neurochemicals like oxytocin and dopamine. Like all of that is involved in the attachment system because our nervous system is constantly scanning, am I safe? Can I relax? And will this person be here for me and keep me safe? When our attachment needs are met, the nervous system learns at a biological cellular level, like, oh, relationships and even this planet is a safe place for me to be. But when our social environment isn't as safe, then we start to have the stress hormones and our heart rate increases. We're not as open to connection and open to the world.
So fascinating. That makes me curious about myself in a lot of ways
How so?
because especially when it comes to like romantic
Mhm.
relationships, I have a hard time desiring to form that bond with
Mm-hmm.
someone. Like I've been single for a really long time. I've been single for like 13 years. I've been in this space where I'm just like, I just don't want to
Mm.
attach to anybody. It feels too triggering to attach to someone.
Yeah, like it's risky and dangerous.
Yeah, it's risky and dangerous, and I
Yeah.
just don't want to. I
Yeah.
don't want the risk, you know? Yeah.
Yes, it totally makes sense. That's a good example of what they call the avoidant attachment style, where the attachment system has shut down the desire actually to attach.
Ah, so it's just my body and my nervous system doing what it does to
And
protect me.
right. And it's come from like, it's a wise adaptation from things you actually went through. Like, without
Yeah.
knowing your history, I can already assume you learned, oh, no one's here to really meet these needs.
Hmm.
Or if I express these needs, it might get dangerous, or I get rejected, or I get criticized. So I need to just shut them down. And it's better to
Yeah.
rely on myself.
And when it really started is when my sister died. That was like I broke up
Oh,
with a guy right before my sister died, maybe a year
mm.
before my sister died, and then I've pretty much been single since she passed.
Wow.
So
How long ago was that?
that was in 2013.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good example too of things that can happen in adulthood that can even shift our attachment system, where we might have been a different style or more secure, and there can be big loss that now it's like, I don't want to go through some pain like that again.
That's exactly what it feels like. Yeah.
Mm, yes.
Yeah. Whew.
Yeah.
And so, since we're on this topic, how do relational experiences shape the way our attachment system develops over time?
Yeah, basically, our earliest caregiving relationships are a template where the brain is building a working model of relationships during those early years. And we're figuring out, what's okay, what's not okay, what happens when I lean in, what happens when I have needs. And it's built on our basic experience. So, again, if our needs were met consistently with warmth and emotional availability, and we had caretakers that weren't perfect, but they were responsive, our nervous system learns, oh, it's safe. I can depend on people. And we can go through things and work through them as well. Like, it becomes the baseline expectation. That template is then what we expect. And we go then pursue other things in the world or other relationships, thinking moving forward, oh, I'll have safety and connection. That's great. But more than half the time, people don't experience that. And we experience caregivers that are not there at all, or they're unpredictable, or they're dismissive, or they're actually frightening. And our system learns, the template goes, oh, right, this isn't safe. So now I have to come up with strategies to manage that.
When we talk about attachment styles, what are we really describing from a psychological or a nervous system perspective?
Yeah, so we're typically describing with the attachment styles a set of behaviors in relationship with others. But in essence, we could think of it as a nervous system strategy. So the attachment style is there's four of being secure, and then there's three of being insecure, which are anxious, avoidant, and disorganized. So these are not personality types, and these aren't fixed identities. They're adaptive responses based on our relational experiences we had. So, for example, an anxiously attached person learns that, oh, connection is uncertain. So they develop this heightened sensitivity in their nervous system to any signs. There's a hypervigilance, like, oh, is my partner withdrawing? Are they going to leave me? And then their system stays activated to look for reassurance, basically, or they're seeking reassurance. They also learn, like, oh, if I get bigger, then I'll get the attention I want. Whereas the avoidantly attached style, right, they learned, oh, expressing my needs led to rejection or to overwhelm. And so they were, I'm going to develop self sufficiency then as protection. And their nervous system learned to down regulate those attachment needs. So the anxious is up regulating attachment needs, and they're kind of always open and alert. And the avoidant is, oh, I'm going to shut them down so I don't have to feel the pain of having these needs, but not actually having them met. And then the disorganized attachment style is typically someone who comes from situations where their caregivers were both the source of comfort and the source of their pain or their fear. So the parents are doing something that's scary and it's confusing because you're like, wait, I'm supposed to go towards you as the source of everything that comforts me and protects me, but I'm also afraid of you. So you have the attachment system going towards the parent, and the defense system is going, this is unsafe. And it's fundamentally like a neurological conflict that you're experiencing internally. And that, can continue on and show up in those adult relationships that we have. So we're really describing with these styles is someone's nervous system, what they've learned, how do they've learned to manage the tension of safety and connection and protection. And then that shows up as certain emotional reactions and certain behaviors.
I feel like I am this way where like when I was in relationships, I would keep ending up in the same relationship dynamic where like I would fall in love with a guy, would be so attracted to him, and then eventually I would get nauseous and I'd end the relationship. Like, and that would
Mhm.
happen over and over again for
Again and
myself.
again.
Again and again for myself. My sisters are like, "You're gonna get nauseous." I'm like, "I know." So, what is actually happening underneath that causes us to repeat patterns even when we are consciously want something different? Because I do want a relationship where the guy doesn't make me
Yes,
nauseous.
I love
What's
this
happening?
question. Yes,
What's
yeah, I
going on? What's
love this.
going on, Jessica?
Right, what's happening here? Because you're nailing something really nuanced. Is like might already have the insight. Like I'm in a dynamic. I don't want to be in this pattern,
Yeah,
and yet the insight isn't sufficient to change the pattern, which is super frustrating.
yeah, yeah,
And I think that's because the change needs to happen at the level of the nervous system, like we've been talking about. It's not just a behavioral change that comes from the awareness of the pattern, it's things that are deeper. We have to understand that we're still driven by the pattern because part of us thinks that enacting the pattern is going to get resolution. So it's like maybe another way of saying it is we're drawn to the familiar of what we know because the brain interprets familiarity as safety, even when that familiar thing is actually painful. So a dynamic in the adult relationships is that replicates is that, it replicates what we knew in childhood because it's like, oh, it's familiar, I know it. And then if I know it, it's predictable. And predictable feels manageable, even if we know it's not good for us. Does that make sense?
yeah. Absolutely. And whatever, for whatever reason, it brought up a memory of my mom saying to my dad, "Oh, you disgust me."
Mm,
That's so fascinating.
that's fascinating as you're talking about nauseous.
I know. That's why that's what's like, I was like,
Yeah.
whoa.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's another piece of that you're then pointing to is that we also were like, a fly to the flame, right? To these patterns because I think we're trying to resolve the original wounds.
Yeah.
So we find ourselves or we're drawn to a version of the early relational dynamic, hoping that this time it will turn out differently.
Mm.
And so it's not a pathological thing we're actually doing, even if we're in the same cycle. It's actually our psyche trying to heal itself. And, I say this to couples a lot. I say, you're going to be perfectly matched with your wounds, but the key is are your wounds going to get activated and just reenacted and you're just re traumatizing each other? Or is there enough health where your wounds get activated and you two can work through them and actually heal through them together?
This actually brings me to my next question, which is why do certain people feel instantly familiar or like home when the dynamic may not actually be healthy for us?
Right. And because it's like that was the dynamic at
That
home.
was the dynamic, right? That,
Right. So
right.
that felt sense is often our nervous system recognizes like, oh, here's a relational signature or like an energetic pattern I know really well.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's known, that doesn't mean it's necessarily healthy, right? So
Right.
if you grew up with a parent who is emotionally unavailable and then you see someone who seems slightly mysterious or they're kind of out of arm's reach, right? You're going to feel this like, ooh, they're magnetic to me.
Oh,
Right? Because there's
yeah.
also like, ooh, I know how to do that. Like I've
Right.
practiced it how to be in relationship to that, so there can be that pull, like I've known you forever because I know this pattern forever, not you forever. So,
That's
you
so
know,
fascinating.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it's almost like the old pattern is dressing itself up as like fate and destiny. Right? Yeah. Yeah, and I don't want to dismiss that sometimes we meet people and we're like, you feel so familiar, and it is not a reenactment of old trauma, right? It can be like, oh, we're really genuinely a good aligned match, but it's being able to start to distinguish that difference. I think that's really important.
It's like, do you remind me of my daddy or no? Because if you do, then I think I have to move on.
Well, right. It's like, do you remind me of my dad? So I'm very drawn to this dynamic or one of my parents. Exactly. Or when
Right.
I'm with you, I genuinely feel like my full self is online and
Mhm.
allowed. And so that's why I feel like home.
My mother's very anxious and she's a very anxious person. And so when I'm with someone who makes me feel anxious and I take it as, oh my God, I have butterflies, like he makes me anxious because I really like him. Is that different from being like, this feels calm and neutral and like easy?
Absolutely. Right. There's a thing in the attachment literature that's like we confuse anxiety for love.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is right. Oh, there's butterflies because I've learned in your case, right? Like, oh, I know how to absorb mom's anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when I'm around someone else with that, I know exactly what to do.
So continuing with that, how does the nervous system play a role in what we interpret as attraction or chemistry?
Chemistry is such an interesting thing, right? It's like the new relationship energy we know about the hormones, the honeymoon phase that we're kind of all in this like cocktail of different neurochemical drugs, basically. We're altered. Yeah, and its chemistry is largely this neurobiological event that we're in, right? And that intense attraction, part of what we're experiencing is arousal. The nervous system is activated and aroused, but the nervous system isn't necessarily distinguishing, like it doesn't distinguish well between am I aroused because there's alignment and excitement or because there's anxiety or actually threat.
Ah,
There's this really interesting study that had people do scary things. Like one of them was they actually had people cross like this like sketchy suspension bridge and then they would see people on the other side and rate their attractiveness. They would put them in these physiological activating situations where the fight, flight, the stress hormones are getting released. And they would rate people as more attractive on the other side of the bridge than if they were rating them before that happened. It's amazing. The same dynamic happens in relationships. And what we're thinking is, ooh, I have chemistry with this person, right? It could be that there's like conscious chemistry of me and you, but it could also be like, oh, I'm just in a threat response or my old patterns, are getting activated. I like people to assess like, okay, good, you feel chemistry, you feel like someone's home, you feel like you met your person, like all the things we kind of say. Is that because you feel safe and alive and yourself? Or does it feel like it's the old wound? Because in the old wound, you might still feel like a lot of that activation, but you're going to go, oh, I'm actually not all me. I'm like a distorted or contorted version of myself.
I heard that like for somebody like me who has ADHD, when you're with somebody, our dopamine levels spike and we might not actually be attracted to that person, but it's because our dopamine levels are spiked in the moment because we're getting like a little bit of like attention from that person and we think that it's attraction, but it's actually not.
No, it's true. Just the newness of someone is releasing dopamine, right? And you're talking about a brain that is more sensitive to dopamine. So it's like, oh, this is amazing. Or I think a lot of people with ADHD are also very empathic. And so we'll meet someone who likes us and we're like, I think I like you. And I've had to say, well, wait, am I just feeling your feelings?
Yeah.
Like, are these my feelings for you, or I'm just sort of drunk off of your feelings for me, basically?
Now I'm like so intentional about it going forward. Is like, do I actually like this person or am I just having a dopamine hit right now?
Yeah, exactly. And I think to add to that question, do I actually like this person? Also ask, do I actually like myself with this person? Do I like the version of me that's showing up with them?
Game changer question. Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. So there's often this assumption that attachment only really applies within monogamous relationships. Does attachment function differently in non-monogamous dynamics, or are the same patterns just simply expressed across multiple connections?
The same pattern expresses across multiple connections. So, our attachment system doesn't know about relationship structure, right? It's right. It just cares about, do I feel securely bonded? Is this person kind? Are they there for me? Will they help regulate? Can we co-regulate? If there's a rupture, will we repair? Right, so that doesn't change in non-monogamy. What's different though in non-monogamy is the complexity that's not there with one person. So if you're dating multiple people, you might have multiple attachment relationships that are active simultaneously. And they might all be at different stages of relationship, and they could be activating different attachment styles in you or different attachment wounds in you. So you might be navigating all of that with your partners, and then you have a partner who's also doing that in their other connections. So it's the complexity that can be a lot. Like when I was in monogamous connections, I'm usually feeling like, yeah, I have one consistent attachment style showing up, even if it's not the one I want showing up. And then in polyamory, it was like, holy shit, I'm like, I'm secure, I'm anxious, I'm avoidant, with these different partners
Mm,
all at once. And so
yeah.
it's really can be overwhelming for the nervous system. But it's not inherently a problem in and of itself. It just requires more skill. It requires more awareness. It requires a lot more communication and capacity that most of us, more than most of us, have been taught.
There's also this belief that non-monogamy is inherently avoidant.
Yeah, this one gets me.
Yeah, I can understand why, right? Because it
Yeah.
feels like a negative, right? Like
Hmm.
we're better than you, like we're not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So from an attachment perspective, where does the idea actually come from, and what have you seen in your work about it?
Yeah. So there's a few points here. And I think this bias that non-monogamy or this, belief that it's inherently avoidant or it's just avoidantly attached people doing it, it actually comes from a complete misreading of an attachment study. And it also comes from cultural bias. So I want to speak to both, right?
Please, yeah.
So the study happened where someone did a survey where they surveyed monogamous people and asked their opinions on if they were open or curious or not at all curious about non-monogamy. You with me?
100% girl.
Right. They're asking monogamous people their opinions about non-monogamy. And what they found was that people who were more avoidantly attached were more interested in the survey. They were saying they were more interested in non-monogamy. So all that tells us is what monogamous people think, not anything about attachment and non-monogamy. But of course, the conclusion of the study is because avoidant people who are monogamous were interested in non-monogamy, therefore those two things are now linked.
Fascinating.
This happens so much in so many different kind of studies.
Yeah.
Psychology, health, I mean, all the fields. So yeah, so that's a big piece is that people are misinterpreting the actual literature, like the takeaways are inaccurate. But then there's this cultural bias piece. So I think the cultural assumption is that if you don't want to be exclusively coupled, you must be afraid of intimacy. And that if you can love multiple people, you're probably not very intimate with all of them or close. You're keeping them all at arm's length, or that people are even thinking that non monogamy is casual. And none of those things are fundamentally true. Right? What I've seen in my practice, and at this point, talking to thousands and thousands of non monogamous people, is just like in monogamy, right? We have all the attachment styles. So it's like, yeah, there's monogamous people who are avoidantly attached and they're using their monogamy to go from one relationship to the next, or they don't even get into relationships in the first place, right?
Or they cheat on their partner.
Or they, right. Even that, I'd say, can be a misconception of where does cheating come from? It doesn't necessarily
Oh,
come from an avoidant attachment. It comes from many different things, right? And
yeah.
sometimes, not all the time, Cheating comes from someone who feels themselves to be fundamentally polyamorous and doesn't have a way of expressing it. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's not the best way to go about expressing it if you're betraying your partner, of course, and it's not
Right.
consensual, but that's more of what's going on than, let's say, an avoidant attachment. The studies, though, that actually look at non-monogamous people practicing polyamory and their attachment styles, they say you have to be more securely attached to do this well. Because you're actually forming more, like multiple secure attachment bonds. And so you're actually working usually with a population of people who are doing a certain level of their relational work and healing to be more and more securely attached with multiple people.
Right. That makes so much
Yeah.
sense. Wow, I
Yeah.
just flipped that right on the head. What a
Mm-hmm.
perspective shift that is. It's
Yes.
amazing. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, Seekers, I think this is a really great place to take a break. We'll be right back with the episode. Here's a perspective shift. Your business doesn't need more pushing, it needs alignment. At 3 of Cups Healing, we offer intuitive marketing solutions using tarot, energy healing, and heart-centered creative guidance. We help emerging business owners turn clarity into momentum and vision into action. So, Seekers, if you're ready to grow your business with more intention and ease, book a free consultation with us at 3ofcupshealing.com. Your vision, your magic. Let's make it real. Together. That's 3ofcupshealing.com. And now, back to the episode.
So let's talk about how we build secure attachment.
Yes.
What are the actual conditions that allow secure attachment to develop in a relationship?
Yes. So it's a handful of things. In my book, Polysecure, I came up with the acronym HEARTS. H is for here, like, are you here with me? Are you present? So it's hard to bond to someone who's not like here, right? That we don't have enough time together. But it's also the quality of your presence. So maybe we are physically here, but am I emotionally here? Right? Am I giving you my attention or am I distracted? The E is, am I emotionally engaged? Am I, tuning into your emotions and being present with mine and sharing mine? The E is also express delight, which is one of my favorites that's not as common to hear about. Is there's something in the attachment experience where I feel delight just in your existence. It's not what you do for me, it's just who you are. And I think a lot of us know that, hopefully, even in just certain friendships where you're just loved and adored for who you are, not for like how you check the boxes or meet certain needs for them. And they call it the attachment gaze, where, whether it's a parent or a lover or a friend, like looks at you from across the room and there's just that like looking you in the eyes and it's like, I love you. And you don't have to say I love you, you just feel it.
Feel it. Yeah. My
Yeah.
sisters and I have that for sure. Yeah.
Right. It's often in those kind of bonds too. Like attachment isn't just romantic. It can be familial, adult. It can be with our cousins as adults, right? Like who are our go-to people? Yeah. The A is attunement, is tuning in to you. Really, even if I don't necessarily agree, but that quality of like, oh, I'm curious about what's going on behind the curtain. I'm curious about what's going on inside of you. And I'm tuning into it. The R is rituals and routines, which are the small and big ways that we have the comings and goings, the things that are ours, right? When we see each other, we might have a certain way that we greet each other, or there's certain ways that we end the day or start the day, whether or not we live together. And then the rituals and routines are also the big things, like the ceremonies that we have, the rites of passage that we have, the grieving rituals that exist, the celebrations. And then T is turning towards after conflict. There's always going to be ruptures in relationship. That's inevitable. Even securely attached relationships have fights, but the research is clear. Secure connections have fights, but they repair really quickly and they get better and better at doing the repair work. Sue Johnson, I like the way she simplifies it. She uses the acronym ARE. So, are you available? Are you responsive? And are you emotionally engaged? And like that's what we're kind of checking consciously, unconsciously. We're tuning into those three things.
How do emotional safety and consistency impact our nervous systems over time?
I think they literally can change how our nervous system operates in relationship. So, when you have consistent experiences of safety with someone, and when you learn through repetition that this person's not going to abandon you or shame you, or they're not going to become threatening, your system can really start to relax and it like releases some of that vigilance. So, the hypervigilance that was adaptive earlier in less safe environments, like you start to go, oh, this is unnecessary. My body doesn't have to do that. And the window of tolerance starts to expand, right? Where, oh, it's like I can have hard conversations without being fully activated or getting defensive. So the safety and consistency actually can help our own bandwidth of like our own capacity of how we show up can get better.
So, for someone who recognizes their attachment patterns, what feels stuck in them, what begins to shift those patterns in a lasting way?
Yeah, for me, it's two key things. So the one-on-one, like individual work is really healing those attachment wounds. And my favorite way to work with that is through IFS, is through parts work and seeing, oh, there's parts of me holding these attachment wounds.
And then can you just tell us what IFS stands for? Because I feel like we've talked about it before on the show, but not so much.
Yes, it's internal family systems. So it's a therapeutic and coaching modality on how to do parts work. It's healthy and normal to have multiple parts of us, but some of those parts carry wounds or they get into protective patterns and they can take over. And so one of the things is saying, okay, yeah, I have this anxious part of me or this avoidant. We often have more than one, regardless of our style. And so going through the work of healing those wounds that we're holding, unburdening them, and then really updating those parts so they're not functioning the way they needed to function. Back then, they're actually updated and become allies in our system instead of parts that are kind of getting in the way. That's one piece is what I see actually shift. And the other is the relational piece, is having new experiences in relationships. And this one feels harder because you can't control it in the way you can kind of hone in and focus on your own healing, right?
Yeah,
Where it's
yeah.
like, yeah, we also have like these wounds came from relationships. So we need to have new relationship experiences, not just the new understanding. So as we said earlier, like insight, it's an important starting point, but it's not sufficient to complete the healing on and shift the pattern on by itself. So really having positive experiences in relationship that contradict the old expectation. So when someone who is never really seen in relationship, right, they expect to not be seen. They expect to have someone who's not showing up. But then when you have someone who sees you and shows up, like that is deeply corrective in the nervous system, right? Or if I expect someone to leave and abandon, but they actually stay when things get hard, that is corrective. So you have that enough times with someone, your template starts to shift. The attachment template in your nervous system, that working model can actually update.
I feel like it's being very aware of not sabotaging it.
Yes.
I have the tendency of doing that when it's like, oh, it's going well and he's not leaving me or he's not making me nauseous. It's like, oh, I'm gonna find something that like actually, tells the truth of what my story is that all men make me nauseous.
That's right. And so that's where that parts work would really come in. Because then I'd say, great, we need to talk to that part of you that's trying to protect you and keep you safe, but actually have her step back a little bit. And she can still be here looking and watching and act as a protector, but in a way that's supportive, not sabotaging.
How do awareness, communication, and nervous system regulation work together to create healthier relationship dynamics?
Yeah, awareness, communication, and nervous system regulation. Well, I feel like all of them are really important. They're all different layers. We need all three. Awareness lets you see what's happening, which is crucial so that you can recognize the pattern. so that you can name the trigger that's coming up, so you can like understand, the history behind my reaction here. So without awareness, we're just usually in reactivity. We don't even know why we're doing what we're doing. Whereas the nervous system regulation, it gives you the emotional capacity to stay present when things are hard. So if you're fully flooded, you can't access the part of your brain that even allows you to communicate. Like you can't even access those brain structures that are for empathy or understanding my other person's point of view. So regulation also is what helps you stay in your awareness. So there really is positive feedback loop. Communication is then how it becomes the relational, right? It's how you bring your inner world into contact with the other. And ideally, I'm regulated and I have awareness. And so now we're actually having a heart to heart conversation that's working, or we can repair.
Now, I understand that like healing is not linear. Totally get
Right.
that. Totally understand that, right? But when we do start to shift towards secure attachment, are there things that we can start to recognize that change first? Like, does our behavior start to shift? Do our emotional experiences start to shift or a sense of self?
Yeah, I think you can pick a starting point, but let's say it begins with behavior. You try something different, right? I'm going to reach out when normally I'd withdraw. I remember, I think I tell this story in one of the books where like I was so self-reliant that it was such a big deal to be like, my partner was coming over and we were relatively new. He's like, "Can I pick you up anything from the store?" And the normal reaction would have been, "No, I'm fine, thanks." And I was like, "Can you get this yogurt for me?" And I like felt stress about it.
Totally
Yeah,
understand that. I totally
right.
get it.
And
Yeah.
so it was like, but I did a new behavior. And then it started to, shift the emotional experience and the sense of self, right? So it's like, oh, if I, instead of withdrawing, let's say, or shut down, I actually stay in the conversation, that will then create the kickoff of the other starting to shift. And that accumulation is really great. But I think it can also start with your sense of self, where you start to shift, like, how am I seeing myself? And that can be through therapy or pivotal medicine experiences, or just, the exhaustion. I'm so tired of this
So I'm
I'm
so
so tired of
tired.
this
Yeah.
pattern. I'm so frustrated, right? Like hitting bottom with
Right.
it, right? And that,
Right. That part of me needs a
right,
nap.
right, exactly. And then there's a
Yes.
longing there, like, oh, I want something different in my life and in my relationships. That's changing our sense of self. So that wanting can come first, and then we're willing to take new actions and behaviors that follow. So I'd say any of them can come first, just go with it. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
But all doors lead to the shift in that regard.
That's encouraging.
Yeah.
Jessica, if there's one truth you hope that we all take away about attachment and love, what would it be?
Yeah, I want it to be that these aren't problems with you that are rigid and stuck. You might feel stuck, you might feel rigidity in you, right? Or too much, but these are wise adaptations that came about for a good reason, and they can shift, right? They're not the final word on like who you are in relationship. So that our attachment styles can change and evolve, and the brain is plastic, right? And so even very early laid down patterns in relationship can actually be updated. They're not locked in. So I really want people to know that even if you're hearing these insecure attachment styles and like, oh shit, that's me. Well, even, pretty severe insecure attachment styles, I have seen them shift towards what's called earn secure. It's totally possible.
What's that?
Yeah, that's where you didn't start off with a secure attachment style. It wasn't insecure, and you've earned it. You've done your work. You've done your healing. You've, put in the attachment reps, so to speak. Kind of everything we've been talking about. And people are actually go, oh, I'm showing up as a secure style now. Yeah, it doesn't mean you don't feel insecure. Even securely attached people will feel insecure, but they can say that. That's actually being secure, saying, "Oh, I'm having insecurity right now."
That just gave me like
Mm.
goosebumps. because I've been working so much on myself over the past few years. I didn't know of earn secure. Like, I didn't know that that was a concept. And I'm just like, oh, that's what I'm doing. Like, I'm putting in the work
Yeah.
and I am starting to feel more secure.
Yes.
And perhaps as I understand this even more, that nauseous feeling will eventually go away too.
Yeah.
That disgust.
Right. It can.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, this has been such an amazing, insightful, and it's given, I didn't realize it was going to give me so much hope for myself.
Oh, good.
And it really truly has given me a new sense of like, oh, I can do something different.
Yeah.
I can be someone different and I can experience something different. And that feels really empowering and encouraging.
Good.
So thank you so much for being here and for sharing your wisdom with us. I so appreciate it, Jessica. Jessica, where can people find you if you'd like to be found?
Yes. When I'm not withdrawing, I like to be found.
It's a girl, I get it so much. I
Right.
so understand that.
Right. My website is jessicafern.com. You can find me there with all the things. And also my co-author of two of my books and I, we have Ask Jess and Dave. And so we're doing kind of like an Ask Us Anything Q&A show. So people can, not just find me, but also get access as well. Yeah,
Jessica, do you feel complete?
I do. Thank you.
Yes.
Y'all, I find it so interesting that I might be feeling nauseous when I date men because my mom found some disgust in my dad. And there's no shame to my mom or my dad when it comes to that. It's just fascinating that I picked that up as a little kid and now it's followed me into adulthood. And now I know what it is, so I can release it. And maybe men won't make me nauseous anymore? Fingers crossed. Now, Seekers, I know I'm not alone in this. So what patterns have you noticed in yourself when it comes to relationships and dating? Throw them in the comments and let's talk about it. So next week, we continue our exploration of love and relationships, but through the energetic lens. We're going to be joined by Katie Chen-Manzara on how money, safety, and power dynamics shape the way we connect in partnership. This might be a really good one to sit down and listen to with your partner and or partners. I'm Julienne Irons, and this is Perspective Shifts for Healing with the Hanged Woman. If this episode inspired you, please like, share, and follow so we can keep the conversation going. Until next time, hang in there, Seeker.